To be honest, that's probably the most difficult part. So I have a great story. That's a good question.
I'm like flabbergasted. Hello darlings, Adabers hai. I'm with Henna Alana, who I know from my community center. She's here today with us to talk about the daycare business. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Of course, and the pleasure is all mine to have you on the podcast. So if you don't mind, if you can give a little bit of background for yourself, please.
Sure. I was born and raised in San Jose, California. I moved to Texas back in 2001. I've always enjoyed working with children. Not only is it my passion, but it's also been like
Your calling, maybe?
My calling, yes. I started my first center back in 2010, and then I opened a second center in 2017, and here I am.
Thank you so much for your introduction. So I think where I would like to start is to ask you, what does it take to set up a center like this?
So the first thing you need is passion. You have to have the drive, you have to have the motivation, you have to want it, and you have to love kids. If you don't love children and you don't love watching them learn and grow every day, yes, you'll prosper. I'm sure you'll prosper as a business owner, but it's not just about the money. There's more to it. You have to enjoy what you do, and then you have to love it enough that you want to be a part of it on a daily basis.
Absolutely. I can totally understand that, if you have passion in what you do, then you can take it to the next level as well, right? In terms of the licensing that's needed and how to secure the building, if you can please talk to us about those types of things that if say, for example, if somebody's looking to be in a business like this, what would they need?
So the first place would be the prime location. So you would want to narrow down which type of neighborhood you want to serve and what type of families you would want to serve. So, of course, each neighborhood is different. So you might have the upper class, the middle class, and then the middle to lower class. Mm-hmm. So securing a building, figuring out where your location you want your location to be, and then going from there to figuring out if you want to lease the building or if you want to own your own building. Mm-hmm. You don't have to have any type of specific background. To obtain your director's license, there are many different categories that Texas Child Care Licensing allows you to follow through. So you can have a degree in early childhood or in any education capacity. You can also have an associate's degree along with some training hours. And then you can take a class to get your credentialing as well. The actual director's license, if you do it with the credentialing program, can be done in less than 6 weeks.
Okay. But one of the things that really comes to my mind is when it comes to setting up the classroom, making it all pretty, everything that goes on, the walls, the decorations based on their ages, right? How does all of that work out?
So that was my favorite part of setting up my center. But you want to set up your classroom in such a way where there's no open areas or no running space. So you don't want to have just an open room with hardly any furniture. So it just makes it so much space where kids can just run around. You want to try to block it and have it occupied as much as possible. So the way I have my center set up is in centers. So we have a writing center, a center for blocks and manipulatives, a center for arts and crafts, a center for dramatic play, circle time rug, a work area. So it's blocked in such a way where they can get up from one center, they're done with that area and they move on to the next play area.
Right. So in terms of getting everything that goes on the wall, other printables, do you have specific companies that you work with? Do you have any favorite companies?
My favorite go-to company is Lakeshore. Okay. I love Lakeshore, especially because they have actual stores set up. They have a few in the Houston area. However, there is Discount School Supply, there's Kaplan, there's so many more other online places that you can purchase from.
Got it. Now switching the conversation over a little bit to getting the right teachers or, the right staff for your location. How does all of that work out?
To be honest, that's probably the most difficult part, is getting the right staff and staff retention. Those are probably the two most hardest parts of the business. For me, I don't like to just to hire so I can have somebody in the room. I don't like to do that, and parents don't like that either. So I want to get that right person who will be nurturing with the kids, who'll be loving on them, who'll also teach them, and then who can also be great when it comes to handling parents and communicating with parents. Mm-hmm. You want to get somebody who has their like a CDA, a Child Development Associate certification. But that's not always possible. So the best thing is to hire somebody on board and then do a lot of training with them in-house.
Okay. So when you're hiring somebody, how do you determine or how do you assess all the little things that you're looking for in them, like especially their love for the kids?
I ask a lot of questions, like what if scenarios,
okay.
And then see how they would handle the situation, and then kind of compare it to the way I would handle that situation and see if they align. Sometimes you have people that are moldable and you can teach them the way you want it done. And then sometimes you have people that are set in their own ways, and then you kind of decide which route you want to go.
Yeah. And just out of curiosity, when you are interviewing somebody, do you have a little panel or is it just yourself interviewing them?
So it's typically one-on-one. So it's either myself or the director or even the assistant director who interviews. And then we'll do a second interview as well. And then most of the times we'll do something called a working interview, which they step into a classroom for about 30 to 40 minutes. And then we get to see what they are like in the classroom. And then they also get an opportunity to see if they like that room.
Yeah, absolutely. That's interesting. So that is the interviewing process or the hiring process per se, yes. Right? So once the teacher is in the classroom, how long do you think normally it takes for the actual training, or do they have an actual training once they've hired?
Yes, they have online training, and then I do something that's called a do's and a don'ts with them. It's like the do's and don'ts of childcare. So it's kind of something that's just very basic and straight to the point on what to do and what not to do, like what is not acceptable and what is encouraged to do on a daily basis. Mm. But the training is ongoing. Every teacher is required to have 30 hours of training every year. And their training expires on a yearly basis, and they have to start over again with new training.
Mm-hmm. And those trainings are available online?
They are online. There are classes that they can attend. There are training seminars they can attend. Or sometimes we have licensed training staff who come here on Saturdays, and they do trainings on Saturdays.
So can you also talk to us about what the day looks like?
Absolutely. So I can tell you this, that there is never a dull moment at the center. It is very high-paced, very adventurous, and constantly you are busy. So there's really no downtime except for nap time. I think when the kids nap, that's kind of like our downtime. So we serve children as young as 6 weeks all the way up to 12 years of age. The center serves breakfast from 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. We have transportation to and from local elementary schools. So the older kids come in, they'll eat their breakfast, and they'll head off to school, while the younger kids will go to their respective classrooms. Their morning time consists of circle time. They have an arts and crafts. They have a lesson for that specific day. They also have other activities that are accompanied day to day. So we have like Taekwondo, we have STEAM activities, we have culinary arts, science experiments. So every day there's an activity for the kids to look forward to. After that, they go outside to have outdoor play, and then they'll head off to the cafeteria to wash up and have lunch. Mm-hmm. And then it's nap time. And after nap time, the day just kind of continues.
So just out of curiosity, how did you come into business itself?
So I have a great story. I worked with second graders. And then I started, after I had kids, I started working in early childhood. So I worked with preschoolers. And I was one day coming back from work early. It was like 1 o'clock. I came back really early that day. I was headed home. I wanted to stop by a center that I had really wanted to tour for a long time. And I thought to myself, since I had some extra time, let me stop and take a tour. So I stopped there and I went inside, and the center was actually, they had some problems, so they were closing down. The landlord had approached me and said, hey, did you want to come and tour? And I said, sure. And, I was touring the center, and I called my husband. He immediately came, and the landlord asked me if I wanted to just come in and take over. And I was instantly, I'm like, no, how I don't know anything. I don't know what I'm doing. And my husband, who is like my backbone, he is the risk taker in the family. He's like, no, this is like your calling. You have to do it. You'll never know if you don't say yes. And that was it. That's how my journey in childcare started. Working in childcare, I always used to say to myself, if I had my own center, I would not do this, or I would do this. And I've kind of accumulated those. And when I opened up my centers, I opened it up with a vision of creating an environment that's warm, welcoming, inviting to each family. I wanted to make sure that each child feels safe and secure when they come in.
Yeah.
I want to make sure that each teacher is treated respectfully, and they are treated like a part of the family.
Yeah. So see, that was your opportunity to make the difference you wanted to make.
Yes.
And rightfully so, this was your calling.
Yes.
What is the one thing that you would absolutely not compromise on when it comes to running a business like this?
That's a good question. I would say the safety of the kids. Where I'm at, for my center, I want to make sure these kids are fed more than enough. That's big to me. Food is big to me. Because sometimes I don't know if all the kids have access to so much food when they go home. And then also something else that's big to me is I want them to be able to have other things that they may not be able to get outside of here, like Taekwondo, for example. I provide Taekwondo free of cost to all the kids here. And there's a company that comes out and does the classes.
That's big.
Yeah. Because I don't know if they'll have that extracurricular activity opportunity outside of the center.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why the other activities that we provide, they're all free of cost. So I don't charge parents any extra money because it's hard. Childcare is expensive.
Yeah.
So I don't nitpick and charge for every little thing. A lot of things I'm like, it's okay, let it slide, because at the end of the day, it's for the child, right? So it's to better them, because we want to see them flourish. They're our future. So we want to make sure they have a good foundation.
Mm-hmm. Wow. I'm like flabbergasted, because that's big.
That is big to me.
So thank you for covering so much with us, and thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you for having me here. I'm so grateful that you gave me this opportunity. So thank you so much.
Of course. With that being said, we will close the podcast. But before you go, I'm going to take some shots of the building and I'm going to include them right here. So stay tuned to watch them. Bye.